Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and to our members of the public who may be viewing on eDemocracy, good morning. I'm Councillor Andrew Brown. I'll be chairing the meeting today of the Planning Policy Built Heritage Working Party for September the 11th. I just want to, before we go any further, introduce the officers who are with me either side of me on the top table. Members of the public, the councillors who will be making decisions and inputting into the meeting are sat in front of me. So if I start to my right, your left.
Good morning, I'm Mark Ashwell. I'm the Planning Policy Manager at the District Council.
And I'm Russell Williams. I'm the Assistant Director for Planning and other bits and pieces at the District Council.
I'm Alana Hogarth. I'm the Senior Conservation and Design Officer.
And I'm Lauren Gregory, Democratic Services Officer.
Thank you. So just before we go to the agenda, I just want to mention a couple of things. Firstly, the fire alarm, we're not expecting a test, so if it goes off, it is a real one. And obviously make your way to the marked exits. Don't use the lift, and you can congregate either at the front or back of the building should that happen, but hopefully it won't. And if we can all either mute or switch off our mobile phones, please, that would be very helpful. Mine's already off, you'll be pleased to know. I don't anticipate the meeting taking the length of time to justify a break, but I might be tempting Providence in saying that. So I think unless members have got any further comments, we'll go straight to the agenda. So number one, apologies for absence, Lauren.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies for absence have been received from Councillor Gary Ball, Councillor John Toy and Councillor Jeremy Punchard, with Councillor Angie Fitch-Tillett present as a substitute for Councillor Punchard.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fitch-Tillett, for volunteering as a substitute today in such pleasant weather. Dragging you in, as it were. Number two, public questions. Do we have any? I understand we don't.
None received.
Okay. And the minutes of the meeting, item 3, held on the 7th of August. Right, which are on page 1 of your agenda papers. Just go through these. They're fairly short, I think. Or are they? 12 pages. Can we take it? Everybody's read these. So anybody have any comments or inaccuracies to correct? No, I don't see any. So I will sign those off at a later date on. Right, and the next one is items of declarations of interest. Beg your pardon. Item 4, declarations of interest. Do we have any pecuniary or non-pecuniary? No. Thank you very much. Number 5, items of urgent business.
None.
None. Thank you very much. We're rattling through this, aren't we? So, okay, so to the main item on the agenda, item 6, the draft Glayville Valley Conservation Area Appraisal public consultation. So the reason why this item is on today's agenda is because we need to approve the latest iteration, which I think is edition 8, which was I think sent to us a few months ago, and we've been obviously looking at it very carefully since. And I'd just like to say to the Conservation and Design team a real thank you for all the work that they have done on this. It's a considerable process and document to work on and to go through. So I'd like to thank them for their work on that. I'd also like to thank those members of the public and organisations who responded to the extension to the previous consultation, which ended in March. The quality of those responses are such that we feel it compelled to consider a further period of consultation for 3 weeks, which is likely to start following acceptance of our recommendation today, if we're minded to do so, to Cabinet, which meets on the 2nd of October. So it would probably start sometime in October, is my understanding. I think given the quality of the responses, which are very, very constructive, it's led to some major revisions and considerations by our consultants per cell. Because of that, we, I think, really do need to seriously consider somebody got a computer game that they're playing? No. That we do seriously need to consider to going out to consultation, but limited only to those who responded in the last round of our previous public consultation. So you'll see the responses on your agenda papers between pages 26 and I think it's 57, village by village in terms of parish council, then organisations, and then individual residents towards the end of it, which I hope you've all had the opportunity to have a look at. So without further ado, I will hand over to Alana, who I think will go through your presentation. Over to you, Alana. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I'm just going to caveat with saying that I'm aware that for some members this will be quite new information, and for some of you, you'll be a lot more aware of the kind of background. So hopefully this presentation is pitched somewhere in the middle, but any questions, happy to answer them. So we're going to go through the policy context and then a bit of background about the work we've done in the Glaven Valley so far. Then we'll look at the changes that are proposed and the next steps, and then our recommendations. So a conservation area is defined as an area of special architectural or historic interest, the character or appearance of which is desirable to preserve or enhance. And that comes from Section 69 of the Planning Act. Section 69 also states that it's the duty of local planning authorities to review the past exercise of functions under this section and to determine whether any further parts of the area should be designated. Conservation area designation introduces some additional planning controls to an area. And Section 671 of the Planning Act also requires local planning authorities to formulate and publish proposals for the preservation and enhancement of their conservation areas. Section 72 asks local planning authorities to pay special attention to the desirability of preserving or enhancing the character or appearance of the conservation area when exercising planning functions. The appraisal document before you conforms to current Historic England guidance. As part of managing our 84 conservation areas, funding was received for the review of the Glaven Valley, which was identified for review early on due to its 1980s designation. We had an increasing need for robust definition and understanding, and there was a requirement for an appraisal document that would inform decision-making. The review started with the settlement designations, and that includes Blakeney, Cley, Wivton, Glanford, Leatheringset, Thornage, Holt, Hempstead, Brinton, Stoddy, Hunworth and Edgefield, all of which have now been adopted. So the final step in the current programme has been to review the Glaven Valley, which overlies most of those. The review has been undertaken in collaboration with our appointed consultants per cell. And we had an initial public consultation on the Glaven Valley between the 21st of November 2022 and the 31st of March 2023. This also included 3 public meetings. So the feedback received following those meetings and that period of public consultation has informed the changes that we've made to the draft and to the proposed boundary. So moving on to the changes that we've made. Several areas were proposed for exclusion from the Glaven Valley prior to the public consultation, and following the feedback that we received, the following areas have now been retained or reinstated and include the quarry west of Edgefield, the salt marshes north of Cly and Blakeney, and all the settlements within the Glaven Valley. A number of areas have also been newly proposed for inclusion following feedback, and these include the village of Sharrington and some of its hinterland, which also includes Valley Farm. There's a spring that rises from the historic Grade 2 Valley Farmhouse and a stream that flows into the River Glaven itself. The village of Sharrington is on the edge of the Glaven Valley, but shares some characteristics with the other villages, including its agricultural character. And we also have the springs north of Baconsthorpe, which includes Selbrig Pond. And there are, again, another series of springs and streams that feed the River Glaven, and these are the source of the river and are also proposed for inclusion. This area also includes the ruins of Baconsthorpe Castle and 2 historic farms, which have also been proposed for local listing, which are Breck Farmhouse and Beckett's Farmhouse. Additionally, amongst sort of minor text corrections, there have been a number of more major amendments to the appraisal. This includes the summary of special interest, which has been significantly rewritten post-consultation in order to better reflect the varied character of the Glaven Valley. Due to the retention of the settlements, much of the text has also had to be written to reflect this, and this includes the summary of special interest, but also there is a summary of each settlement, which also makes reference to their individual appraisals. And there's also some discussion of the North Norfolk landscape character assessment. In terms of next steps, subject to approval, we're hoping to carry out a 3-week period of public consultation, and this is likely to include publication of documents on our website. We will invite comments, and we will directly contact properties affected by new boundary proposals which fall outside of the settlement boundaries. And we will be notifying parish councils and those who commented previously. But just a note to say that with the direct consultation, we don't intend to contact every household in Sharrington, but to notify the parish council and advertise within the village via posters. So once representations have been considered and any amendments made, we will be bringing the amended document back to the working party later this year. So just to reiterate our recommendations today, the report before you asks that Working Party recommend to Cabinet that the responses received to the first round of public consultation are noted and that the subsequent revisions made to the text and boundary are endorsed. And another round of public consultation is undertaken on the revised document as laid out in the report, the results of which will be brought back to Working Party in due course.
Thank you, Alana, for that. I think that's a very, very neat summary of the changes and the position that we're in. Obviously, going out to consultation, yet again, I think reflects the ethos of this council insofar as we want to engage with our communities as much as we possibly can on these issues. And I think that's reflected in the quality of the responses we've received, which are itemised in the report. There's a great deal of public interest in the Glaven Valley in this exercise. Can I just clarify that in relation to notifying people close to the listed buildings, that's a fairly confined area, so we'll probably do that by individual letter. to people.
Yeah, so it'd be send out notification by
But
post.
the area in Sharrington is so extensive, it would be difficult
Yeah,
to send a letter to everybody in Sharrington. It would be sort of a, you know, a bit of a bridge too far, hence the slightly different methodology. We're going to notify the parish council and put notices up in Sharrington instead, just to make that clear why that distinction has been made. I'm reliably informed that the date of the appraisal and management plan will be altered from May 2023. That's the date it was received from the consultants, and will be updated to whichever month sees the publication of the appraisal once it is finally approved. I am grateful to one or two people that have stood out in this process. There is one particular resident in Brinton Parish, actually in Sharrington, who has done a lot of research to source a chalk stream, which is referred to, I think, on slide 5 in Alana's presentation, and to identify the spring for that chalk stream, and is in the process of having that duly registered by the appropriate authorities. So I would like to thank that particular resident for the work that they have done in that respect. It's particularly pleasing, I think, to see the salt marshes retained in the designation, because it has a statutory designation in addition to its SSSI status and AONB status. Am I right in saying that, Mark? So it has a triple layer of designation or assignation in planning policy terms, which I think is appropriate. And talking about layering, one change which I think this particular revised appraisal draft makes is that we are now overlaying all 6 villages that were designated in the previous consultation last year, which was finalised last year. It will overlay those villages with a blanket designation as distinct from an earlier proposal, which we've now revised, where the rural area designation would be contiguous to the settlement boundaries of those villages that were designated in the conservation village area appraisal last year. So we've sort of reverted to type on that, in the sense that we are continuing the system or the process of that, where if it effectively started before this review process was commenced for the villages in the rural area. So today, the reason for this agenda item is simply to concentrate on whether we think it is appropriate as a document, as it stands, to go out to public consultation. I don't really want to go into great detail of the minutiae of particular parts of it, whether, what is the reason for that being included. I don't really want to do that. I just want to, because the reason I say that is you will have that opportunity when it comes back to the next working party meeting to go through that aspect of it. Today purely is really to approve the mechanism. Do we go out to consultation? In my view, I think we should, or don't we? So the recommendation in the report you will see on page 19, options considered: to undertake consultation on the revised draft document, not to undertake further consultation. I think option 2 is the one that we should choose, but I'm quite happy to throw it open at this stage to the meeting. And I'll come back to a vote on approving the minutes, by the way, which I forgot to do long before you tick me off on that. Councillor Holiday and then Councillor Dixon. Councillor Holiday, of
Okay,
course, much of this is in your particular ward.
As I'm very, very much welcome this, Amanda. Thank you very much indeed. Can I just preface this by saying I do have a conflict of interest. I've got 2 properties listed in this document, actually. So I do have a conflict of interest, which I will discuss with the monitoring officer when it comes to actually voting on the document. I don't think it precludes me from voting on the consultation itself. That's my personal view. I don't know if you want to dispute that, but I generally welcome the document and I welcome the consultation. I would like some hard copies, please, because I know certain parts of my patches would like some hard copies. Thank you.
I'm going to defer to our Democratic Service Officer as regards the declaration of interest.
I believe Councillor Holiday's statement is very sensible to speak to the monitoring officer. As I understand it, this is just to go out to consultation. It might be that Councillor Holiday chooses not to vote on this specific item, just to cover off, as there are quite a few other members in attendance, but to speak to the monitoring officer would be a very sensible suggestion.
Thank you, Councillor Holiday. Is that what you actually wanted to say, or do you have any further comment on?
Well, I think I'll keep them for the consultation, actually,
Yeah, okay.
as you suggested,
Yeah,
actually.
no,
But
that's fine.
of course, I do welcome the changes that you've made.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, if all the decisions that this committee has to take were as difficult as this, we probably have a lot shorter meetings and probably less frequent of them as well. So I don't know the area that well, but I certainly feel I know the area better by looking at this a time or two now. It looks like a pretty thorough piece of work to me. So I have no hesitation at all in recommending that it goes out for public consultation.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Anyone else have any comment? Councillor Heinrich.
I'm happy to second that proposal, Chairman. Excellent piece of work, by the way. Excellent.
Yeah, thank you and good morning, everybody. I'm very pleased that you have included Sharrington. I recall the last meeting I attended, which was quite some time ago, I think, actually in person. And I could see the logic of that because of the rising of the beck that fed into the river. So I'm very pleased with that. Thank you.
Yes, and actually the chalk stream feeds into Brinton Mill, which is the mills within the Glaven Valley are a pretty essential keystone of the heritage in the Glaven Valley. So there is an association there quite clearly. Councillor Heinrich, do you want to come in?
Something to repeat, I'm happy to second the recommendation.
Okay. So I think we can probably proceed to the vote, can't we? We have a proposer and a seconder. All those in favour? One abstention from Councillor Holiday. Thank you very much. Sorry, moving swiftly on. We go to item 7, which is an update on local plan examination progress and communications. And I defer to Mr. Mark Ashwell on this, who will be keeping abreast of the third report stage in the House of Lords on the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill and its effect on local plan policy making, no doubt.
So I'll just do a very quick update of where we are in terms of the process. So you're all aware that we've submitted the plan for examination. Inspector's been appointed. The inspector has asked the local authority a number of what I would call sort of factual and clarification questions. This is a sort of process that the inspector goes through. He reads all the documents, may start to sort of flesh out some ideas in his own mind about the sort of progress of the plan, his own thoughts about it, and will seek clarification from us. before then setting out the formal issues for examination and holding the hearing sessions. So he sent us a list of questions. I referenced those last time I was here a couple of months ago around alternative housing targets, alternative plan periods, and a number of related issues, particularly around trajectory and speed of delivery, given the issues in relation to nutrient neutrality that weren't on the table when we prepared the plan and submitted it. So we've answered those initial questions. I'm waiting on response from the inspector in terms of whether he's sort of initially satisfied with that. And then I would expect and hope that he will then start to talk about the actual timetable for the hearing sessions and moving on to the next stage. We don't have any dates as yet. It may still occur before Christmas, but my suspicion is we're probably looking at hearing sessions now in the new year. And as referenced by the chair, obviously that changing position in relation to nutrient neutrality will be an interesting area for discussion, depending on which direction the LURB, Levelling Up Regeneration Bill provisions go, and whether nutrient neutrality is still an issue when we get to the examination or not. So everything is in, and I'll keep you informed with any progress, but I think we're probably looking at hearing sessions probably in the new year now. Happy to take any questions.
Yes, obviously, this is challenging for, local authorities around the country. There are several councils who've paused their local plan making, but interestingly, I think there was a recent diktat from DLUC warning those councils that have paused their local plan making that there could be consequences, quote unquote, whatever they may be. Nobody can quite work out what they are, because apparently it isn't invoked very often on local authorities, mercifully, for our planners up and down the country. But that said, we are not in that category, as we took the decision earlier in the year to refer our local plan for examination by the inspector, fully cognizant, if you like, of the possibility of changes along the way, particularly in the light of the new NPPF, National Planning Policy Framework, and what eventually is enacted through the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill. But we decided that we would live with those changes, prospective changes, as the plan is vetted by the inspector, and react accordingly. So turns out to have been the right decision in terms of satisfying the government's requirement for local authorities to get on with their local plan making. So any questions from members from the floor on this? Any queries, any clarifications? No. It's testament to how well planning policy managers handling it, I think. Right, okay, thank you very much for that. So if I can revert to the minutes of the meeting, we need a proposer, and I'll propose. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Varley. All those in favour of those minutes from August? Thank you very much. Just for the record, it keeps Lauren happy. And on the straight and narrow as regards that. So we move on now to the next item on the agenda, which is exclusion of press and public. Uniquely, we have no one from press or public here, so that's a bit of a non-item for us. So setting a record, possibly. It's 10:30. Unless anybody has any further questions or comments. No queries from Democratic Services to my left. We can all return to our